The movie starts with a little girl named Pang waking up from sleep. She opens her eyes and immediately gets terrified upon seeing the extremely horrifying room she is in. She slowly turns her head and screams in fright when she sees a rotting corpse next to her. Slowly, the little girl gets up and looks around the room, crying. Pang tries to untie the rope on her hands, but to no avail. Suddenly, she hears a noise, and a woman with a broken leg comes into the room. The woman is holding a menacing dagger in her hand and is looking for Pang, but the little girl quickly hides in a cupboard. When the woman does not see the girl, she decides to leave, but then unfortunately for the little girl, the witch spots the cupboard and moves towards it. The poor little girl desperately tries to stop her breathing so as to not make noise, but it's all too late now. The woman quickly approaches the cupboard with her dagger, and is about to open it when Pang beats her to the punch. The little girl forcefully barges out and pushes the woman, making her fall. As she tries to escape, the woman holds onto Pang's feet. She tries to hurt her with a knife, but by mistake, she hit. Seizing this golden chance, Pang manages to run away, and almost gets out through a broken door. However, the woman pulls her back inside. Later, Pang wakes up again, this time tied to a chair. She tries to free herself, and notices the woman combing her hair. The woman tells her to not shout and behave well, just like her siblings. Only then does Pang notice the other children sitting around the table with her. She notices that they can't see. This makes Pang really scared, and she starts screaming loudly with fear for what might come next. Later on, a group of people arrive at the house, their discussion revealing the woman's name as Chaba. As they search around, a man detects footprints and discovers that Chaba has hidden the children in another room. On the other hand, the crazy witch holds Pang tightly, covering her mouth so she cannot part of a crew member being watched by as one of the girls emerges from the theater and approaches Toe. She sees him sitting alone and the woman approaches Toe and inquires why he's not interested in watching his own creation. Toe responds that he already devastated to see that Chaba has already taken before they arrived. This revelation fuels his anger, prompting them to bind Chaba's neck with a rope. Chaba struggles to break free, but to no avail. A group of angry people is far worse than an army of soldiers. It turns out that the woman abducted these children because she missed her own, and thus started this madness. As Chaba hangs there, struggling with her last breaths, the scene changes, and it becomes apparent that the intense events were Chaba struggles to break free, but to no avail. A group of angry people is far worse than an army of soldiers. It turns out that the woman abducted these children because she missed her own, started this madness, and thus Chaba hangs there, struggling with her last breaths. The scene changes, and it becomes apparent that the previous night, his face shows a bit of dissatisfaction with the work, and he specifically mentions that he wants to alter the scene depicting Chaba's hanging again. Soon the woman gets a call, and Toe gets up and leaves. Back at the theater, the movie continues, and we once again hear Pang's piercing screams echo, drawing the attention of the man who saved her earlier. Pang lies in bed with a bandage over her eyes. She trembles as she tells him that Chaba is present. In an effort to soothe her, he reassures her, and it's at this moment that an old cupboard creaks open. When the man looks towards the sound, he sees a glimpse of the old woman sitting within the cupboard. Meanwhile, outside the theater, the girl glimpses Chaba as she comes back in and follows her into an empty screening room. A strange phenomenon unfolds as their very own movie starts playing on the screen. Suspicion takes hold as the girl believes Toe. The director is orchestrating this from the shadows. She calls out to him, but to no avail. A familiar scene begins to unfold on the screen, depicting Chaba's fear grips the girl, propelling her to flee. Yet a mysterious sound halts her in her tracks. She gazes back, only to find a real person in the theater, casting a haunting shadow upon the screen. The scene chills her to the bone, and she freezes to the spot, unable to do anything but scream in fright. The scene shifts, and we see a man named Shane, who works as a cinema operator in the theater. In the midst of the movie chaos, a fellow worker approaches him, holding a reel for a ghost film set to release the following week. Curious, he questions the source of the reel, and inquires whether the movie is frightening. Shane admits that he's not a fan of horror films, thus unable to provide an answer. The film in question bears the title, Revengeful Spirit. At this point, a man named Yod enters the scene. He and Shane go to a secluded space and swap the reels of the upcoming movie with another one. It becomes evident that they're hatching a plan to leak the unreleased movie. Although Shane is a bit skeptical and wary of what might happen, Yod looks rather relaxed. He hands over money to Shane, telling him that once they successfully take out the job, the rest of the money will be given to him after. With the reels in hand, Yod departs, leaving an anxious Shane behind. Later, the cinema closes for the day and Shane's shift ends. He stands in the locker room and makes a call to bet on football matches. As he is talking, he notices a girl named Sam entering the locker room. He quickly ends his call and turns to her, but she looks unhappy with him. She gets a call, with someone on the line telling her a happy birthday. Shane quickly wishes her a happy birthday too, when suddenly Yod enters the scene. Shane attempts to communicate that it's Sam's birthday today, but Yod seems to miss the point. Meanwhile, Sam walks down a corridor and is startled by a noise. She glances backward, finding emptiness, but as her gaze returns forward, she comes face to face with a Chaba. The lights begin to flicker, casting an eerie ambience, and Chaba's figure starts moving towards Sam. Fear takes hold, compelling Sam to bolt from the scene. In her desperate flight, Sam rushes into the staff room, only to find the door shut. Darkness engulfs the space as the lights go out. Just as the door suddenly creaks open, Sam reacts instinctively, landing a punch on Yod, who stands there with a cake. What seemed like Chaba's spectral presence was actually a cutout, all part of an elaborate birthday surprise orchestrated by her friends. Her fear and tension quickly dissolve as the realization dawns that the intent was to create a memorable birthday celebration for Sam. The woman quickly sighs in relief. Later, the group heads to a bar to celebrate Sam's birthday, and during the celebrations, it's revealed that Yod is actually Sam's brother. As the night progresses, we see Shane glancing at Sam. He seems to want to talk to the girl, but she ignores him. Sam soon decides to leave the bar. As she goes, Yod prompts Shane to accompany her. Approaching Sam, Shane tries to talk about a watch, but the girl outright ignores him. He soon becomes aware of her visible anger. But before any resolution can occur, a taxi arrives and Sam departs abruptly, leaving the boy hanging. Shifting back to the theater, Shane returns at Yod's behest with the reels of the movie. Yod requests Shane to play the movie, all the while secretly recording it with a camera to create unauthorized copies. They sneakily do their work. Within the theater cabin, Shane keeps track of the football match that he bet on and takes out a bill, triggering a flashback. The flashback reveals Shane stealing a watch from Sam's bag. She comes out of the washroom and catches him in the act. He defends himself by saying that he only wants to borrow it, but Sam does not believe him. She knows that he is just going to pawn the watch for some money for. A scuffle breaks out, resulting in Shane hitting Sam. The flashback ends, and Shane sits in the theater with a somber expression. It is clear that he regrets his actions. And now he is doing this sneaky business with Yod so he can save up some money to buy the watch that he sold off. Overwhelmed by these memories, Shane succumbs to sleep in the theater. Awakening to daylight, he realizes that Yod is nowhere to be found. Descending to the theater, Shane discovers Yod's camera, prompting him to inspect its content. However, Sam arrives unexpectedly, disclosing that Yod returned the wrong prints of the movie and the group fears the movie might be pirated. Panic sets in as Shane wonders where the hell Yod went. Sam departs once more, leaving Shane alone with the camera. He takes the camera and goes to another room. There, he locks up the doors to make sure nobody sees him. As he examines the footage, he notices a point where the camera fell during recording. Intriguingly, Yod appears on screen, exuding fear. His distressing screams resonate through the audio. Shane's contemplation is interrupted by a co-worker who knocks on the door. As he opens it, the boy tells him that the group he put his money on has won. This news makes Shane think about what he should do next. He gives the pawn shop bill to the boy and asks him to get his bet money and get back his item from the shop. After Shane finishes work, he goes to Yod's house. He knocks on the door, but Yod doesn't answer, making Shane worried sick. The boy then notices that the door is unlocked, so he slowly makes his way inside. The house is eerily empty, with not a single soul to be found. He gingerly walks to Yod's bedroom and sees the fan open. When he tries to shut it off, the switch short circuits and he quickly wrenches away his hand. Amidst the terrifying situation, he sees strange footprints leading from a cupboard. Feeling scared, he opens the cupboard but finds it empty. Just as he's about to leave, two men arrive. They ask about Yod. These men are the ones who gave money to Yod for making illegal copies of a movie. Shane tries to make excuses and promises to give back the money. But one of the men explains they don't want money anymore. They want a copy of the movie before it's supposed to come out. Returning to the theater, Shane takes matters into his own hands and begins copying the movie. Meanwhile, in the film, Peng's caretaker enters her room and encounters the same mysterious footprints that Shane saw at Yod's house. The tracks lead to the cupboard, mirroring Shane's experience. Poor Shane is rattled by the eerie parallels. Feeling very scared, he calls Yod on his phone. But then he realizes that the ringing sound is coming from the theater itself. He gets curious and starts searching for his phone. While looking, he finds the sound coming from the place of the movie projection. To his shock, he sees something really scary. Yod is in the movie, but his eyes are and the phone is ringing next to him. This sight scares the hell out of Shane. He abruptly leaves the theater, unable to stay anymore. He keeps thinking about the terrifying scene again and again in the hallway. Then something spooky happened. Shaba walks past him. He looks back and sees her haunting feet. This makes him scared out of his wits, and he runs out into the parking lot, feeling like someone is chasing him. With a flashlight in hand, he searches all around him, but he does not see anyone. Taking a breath of relief, he adjusts the bag on his shoulders. Unbeknownst to him, Chaba is creepily hanging onto his back. Disturbed by the events and consumed by his unease, Shane returns home. Suddenly, a noise catches his attention from behind. He turns down the TV volume and listens intently. The sound seems to originate from the bathroom. As he gingerly enters, his eyes fall on fresh footprints, guiding his gaze to a screen. Taking a deep breath, he slowly gazes up. Behind it, Chaba is standing and combing her hair. Braving his fear, Shane removes the screen, revealing an empty space. Yet, the comb's prongs hold strands of hair. This is really eerie and doesn't make sense. The following day at the theater, a few of his female co-workers ask him to help set up a room. There, a poster for the movie catches Shane's eye, declaring it's based on a spine-chilling true story. The revelation shocks him to the core. Driven by his growing concern, he goes back to his cabin and, alone, watches the recording from the camera again and again. After looking closely, he sees a moment where Chaba appears in the recording, making him even more anxious. He puts the camera aside and gets up. Looking out of his cabin window, Shane sees someone who looks like Chaba inside the theater. He's both curious and scared, so he runs to the theater to check. But when he gets there and looks at the seat where he saw Chaba, it's empty. Setting aside his worry, he settles into the seat to watch the movie. But a sudden movement disrupts his focus, directing his gaze toward a pair of seats. To his astonishment, two dwarfs now occupy those seats. He apologetically looks at them and then quickly leaves the place. In the meantime, Sam keeps an eye on Shane and follows him. She discovers his camera and watches the recording inside. Believing that he might have copied the movie for drugs, Sam questions him, wondering if Yod was also involved. Shane informs her of Yod's passing and confesses his belief that there's something supernatural in the movie. He shows her the footage of Yod's scared face as evidence, and also recounts how he saw Yod's lifeless body in the film the previous night while recording alone. However, Sam finds it difficult to accept his claims. Shane reveals that ever since watching the movie, he's been seeing Chaba's presence everywhere. He urges Sam not to watch the movie, fearing the consequences it might have for her. Frustrated and disbelieving, Sam storms off. Later, Shane remains seated in the theater, lost in thought. His co-worker arrives, delivering a bag that Shane requested. Inside the bag is Sam's watch. As he tries to handle it, the watch slips from his hand. When he bends down to pick it up, Chaba materializes beside him. Overwhelmed with terror, Shane flees the scene. Chaba follows him everywhere. She catches him by surprise amid a group of people, and gripping her own jaw, she rips it apart. This horrifying sight makes Shane's blood run cold. Running in a frenzy, he enters an elevator, but it comes to an abrupt halt. Shane cries out for help, but to no avail. The lights also go out, making the small space swim in darkness. Amidst his screams, Chaba once again materializes, who abducted children 3 decades ago and cruelly gouged out their eyes, leaving them to be their eyes. Villagers located her own. The villagers located her house and attacked the mad woman, subsequently hanging the mad woman to oblivion. Armed with this knowledge, Sam confides in Shane that her investigation aligns with his account of seizure. Meanwhile, Sam comes to his apartment. There, she starts to suspect an overdose, but her friend informs her that Shane quit drugs after their breakup, leaving her perplexed about the true cause of his distressing experience. Later, Sam delves into her research on the Revengeful Spirit movie, discovering that a curse befell the production crew. She also uncovers the harrowing disturbing origin. She asks him how the movie concludes, to which Shane reveals that the hero meets his demise and is unable to find Chaba's body. Sam suggests another idea. Why not do the job on their own? Since Chaba's body was never found after the hanging, it must still be in the same house. The next day, they board a bus and start their journey. They reach the place and ask around to find the house. Along the way, they encounter individuals who have suffered the same fate of having their eyes removed. They finally reach the house and begin searching for Chaba's body. Their efforts lead them to a large cupboard, which they move together. Surprisingly, there's no secret passage behind it, as in the movie. Sam reminds Shane that reality might be different from the movie's story. Suddenly, a fan falls, startling them. Shane tries to protect Sam, and ends up getting hit by the fan and falling into the previously hidden basement. He loses consciousness briefly, and when he wakes up, he finds himself in the same movie set. He's face to face with the rope that Chaba was hanged from. A photograph catches his eye. As he looks at it, there's loud banging on the door. At first he's scared, but when the door breaks open, he realizes it's Sam. He finally feels a bit relieved. Sam urges Shane to leave with her, but a strange noise makes him curious. He feels as if Sam is calling him from behind, but isn't she in front of him? When he looks back, to his surprise, he sees Sam upstairs. He is terrified when he realizes that the person he thought was Sam is actually Chaba. This realization makes him tremble in fear as he tries to wrench his hand from the ghost's grasp. The door breaks open, and the real Sam finally comes in to find Shane trembling in fear on the ground. She quickly wakes him up from his terrifying nightmare. Sometime later, we find Shane and Sam in a hospital, facing questions from a doctor about their presence in the house. Sam fabricates a story, claiming they were there to gather information for a news story about Chaba's passing. The doctor, however, reveals that Chaba is alive, leaving them stunned. According to the doctor, when villagers attempted to hang Chaba, the police intervened and she was saved in time, subsequently receiving medical attention. When they go to the hospital to see Chaba, they find out that she's actually an old woman. This surprises them, and they're confused about how Chaba could still be alive. Sam even contemplates whether what Shane sees is real, or just a figment of his imagination. They're also left wondering about the identity of the entity Shane saw. As they think about all of this, Shane suddenly sees a movie poster and realizes that the woman he saw is actually the actress who played the role of Chaba. Determined to uncover the truth, they visit the production house responsible for directing the movie. There, they find out that no one has come to work for a while. Hearing this, they decide to break in. Inside, they go through the stuff to find anything that could lead them somewhere. Sam discovers the list of crew members of the movie and tries calling them, while Shane discovers a camera that reveals behind-the-scenes footage of the film. Particularly, it shows the filming of the scene depicting Chaba's. Shane witnesses the director repeatedly shooting the scene, unsatisfied with Ing Chan's performance. The assistant director chastises her, pressuring her to improve. A subsequent take seemingly meets the director's approval. However, a grave error is detected. Ing Chan's safety wire is broken and she is genuinely suffocating. The team rushes to her aid, but their efforts come too late. Ing Chan meets her demise then and there. Sam sees Shane leaving from the window and runs after him. He sets out without her, after warning Sam that if he doesn't return by the next day, she should avoid the theater and the deadly scene in the movie. He informs her that the scene depicting Chaba's demise in the film is actually real, and whoever watches it is doomed to lose their life. He entrusts her with the watch and departs. Arriving at the theater, he encounters the people to whom he was supposed to deliver the movie copy. Amid the commotion, the crowd begins to exit, granting Shane an opportunity to escape. He runs out, and in the staff room, sets fire to the movie reel. Afterwards, he walks towards the exit, but something strange happens. Reality seems to rewind back to just a few minutes ago. It's as if he's returned to the exact same moment. He retraces his steps, burns the film reel again, but the same thing happens all over again. This time, he doesn't run away. Instead, he faces the man and hits him to his heart's content, but the image of the man transforms, and his actions lead to violence against a picture of Chaba. Shane is really confused by all of this. His confusion grows as he suddenly sees Chaba. He's really scared, and starts running away, but soon gets surrounded by screens showing Chaba's slaughter scene. Meanwhile, Sam also arrives at the cinema. Back inside, amidst the chaos, Shane spots Sam and tries to go to her. However, as he goes after her, the real Sam arrives and sees him enter a room. The door closes, trapping them apart. Shane goes inside the theater, searching for Sam. There, Revengeful Spirit is playing, and the scene portraying Chaba's demise fills the screen. Abruptly, Chaba vanishes from the scene, leaving Shane astonished. The shock escalates as he senses Chaba's presence approaching from behind. Turning around, he is confronted by the ghost herself, who questions if he truly wishes to witness her passing. Despite his fear, Shane manages to break free and flees, yet Chaba relentlessly pursues him. Chaba's pursuit leads them through the theater's corridors. Shane narrowly escapes her attacks. Seeking refuge, he rushes through a door, only to realize he has entered the very room where Chaba met her end. Panic takes hold as he discovers the exit sealed shut. Poor man can't get a break. Meanwhile, Sam arrives at the theater, witnessing a shocking scene. As she watches, her disbelief mounts. Inside the movie screen, Shane comes across the lifeless bodies of the people who worked on the movie, and Yod. Seeing this terrifies Sam, and she breaks down. Shane, on the other hand, is filled with fear and helplessness. He feels like he's stuck in a terrible nightmare. Suddenly, Chaba appears, moving closer to him menacingly from behind. She slowly reaches out her hands. Sam watches this terrifying scene, crying hysterically, tears rolling down her cheeks. Following the intense sequence of events, the ignorant theater hosts a packed audience for the screening of Revengeful Spirit. As the movie reaches its climax, Chaba's passing scene plays out, depicting her demise. However, the scene takes an unexpected turn when suddenly Chaba's head lifts, and she shouts at the audience, asking threateningly if they really want to see her final moment. With this chilling line, the movie comes to an abrupt end.